We get a chance to hit
What
the
about our
intro
intro
video.
video? We
It,
can't go live without an
okay,
intro video, smoke machine, all the lights.
Joey just told the best joke, and no one's ever going to hear it again. He'll deliver it terribly. All right, no commercials this evening. It's a little late, it's past some people's bedtime, but those of you who are joining in, we appreciate you for stopping by. Joey, I hate to break your heart, buddy, but you got some issues here.
What do you mean? Am I blurry?
You're a little blurry. You're a little blurry. So this is the
Uh,
part where Joey's gonna
I'm gonna
uh,
drop out and come back.
exit
Damn it.
stage left,
Just think of
and
something
then
to talk about, Melina.
I'm not that witty, and now I'm full screen. All right, so we got Jeremy Jones about to come on in. Joey's gonna be Joey was late a little bit, but he made it here thankfully. Had kids soccer practice and put me on tilt just right before we went live. Let me bring him back in because he's back now. Let's see how that mug's looking. I mean, like
Better.
usual, it's clearer. I don't know if better is the right term. Joey, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just got off the soccer fields, and I wouldn't have missed this interview for the world. You know, I love it every time we get this guy in here. He's always got great insights. Probably the most knowledgeable about pool in the country. So every time we talk to him, it's just a treat, kind of getting that knowledge and learning more about the game that we love.
Well, he does so many things, and I'm not here to pump his ego a little bit, but he does so many things in the pool world. From still playing pretty sporty, which we'll talk about when it comes to the Texas Open, to of course his role as a commentator, Moscone Cup captain, newly announced. So let's bring him on in, Joe.
Yeah,
Double J, Jeremy Jones, no stranger to
without
the
Hello,
show.
guys.
How are you, Jeremy?
Good. How y'all doing?
doing great, Jeremy. It's good to see you, man. You been
You
busy?
too, Joey. I'm sorry.
You've been pretty busy, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Been pretty busy. Been fortunate since home. Had one lesson this week. Didn't want to schedule much and just kind of relaxing. Came from one of the kids' football games. It was like 110 degrees outside. So uh, yeah, I feel a little left out right here now. Though I'm looking at y'all's backgrounds compared to mine, and man,
we
y'all's are all decorated. Mine's pretty plain back here,
we got to
but
spruce it up, Jeremy. You're becoming a
well.
regular on the show. You've been on like 10 times now. We got to get you a nice
At
background.
least, yeah.
Well, my pool table area is good. It's just if you had the pandemonium at my house, it seems like all hours with some that are almost 20 and then some teens and
Oh,
all the dogs. So I got to find a room that'll work. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
gotcha.
Lord
Yeah. So I'm
knows we know those
in the
struggles having
10-year-old's
having
room
young
right now.
kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, Jeremy, let's kick it off, and we got a few topics we want to talk to you about. But this Texas Open just wrapped up. I know you've probably played in that thing for a few decades now, and it was quite an interesting tournament this year, and Tyler Styer ends up winning the whole thing. And just want to get your thoughts on Tyler, his play, and really the Texas Open in general.
Well, the 50th anniversary, and it's the longest running tournament, I think, in the country for sure, and maybe possibly the entire planet. So, I mean, hats off to what they've done there for such a long time, changing some hands, and it never seemed like there was any friction doing so, changing pool rooms. Um, and you can see the long list of champions. And usually, from what I've seen in that tournament, like so many great tournaments, the guy who deserved to win did, and I think the same thing happened this past week.
Where have you been seeing Tyler's game? Having that bird's eye view on the Matchroom commentators platform, and versus seeing it kind of peak out here in Round Rock this past week.
Um, well, physically on the table, which I guess definitely was a mental decision at some point, and maybe heading that way anyways. But I saw a lot more playing out there from Tyler. Like, of course, he's going to be a guy that works and tries to get position and all that, but it wasn't like it looked a lot more playful to me. You know what I mean? Like someone was playing the game. I talk about it all the time. I used to lose a lot of money betting on this guy in the pool room that looked like the part and dressed the part and everything else. And then I saw this other guy, and then I figured out, hey, this guy's swinging the cue every time, and he never really kind of backed down. And I think he started to get a taste of that more and more in the bigger events. And I think it's just something he realizes he has, and that's a special gift, is to attack like that. And Tyler, I think at times in the past had been talked about maybe going for too crazy of a shot, right? Which is still something maybe you'll have to deal with. I'm talking about just all the 500 shots in between those crazy shots. He looked very committed, very free with the stroke, and not so much worried.
It seems like at times he's been more process focused versus having like that feel, and when he was playing pool out there, at least this past week, it looked like it all gelled together. I mean, it's easy to say that now after he won the thing, but he just looked like it was a lot more, not trying to go through the motions were just going through him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the last few years since Tyler hit the scene, to his credit, if the word fundamentals would be synonymous with Tyler Styer. And if you have something like that, and his fundamentals are rock solid, that and they certainly fit him. It's not he doesn't need to manufacture. You know what I'm saying? So once you start to realize that, and I think some of the way we've seen some of the players win the bigger events this year, I think has also opened his eyes along with some other players that attacking and continuing that. Now you got to be smart about it. Of course, is kind of the future of the game.
Yeah, so Melina and I, we do like a little message for our Patreon supporters, and we just think of a question each day to ask them. And we thought of one the other day, and that question that I asked Melina was, has Tyler Styer emerged as the clear number 3 player in the United States for rotation? And I think we both ended up settling on we think he has. And it's it's funny because it's almost like the way he's carrying himself even off the table. It's like you can tell that he knows he's there. He knows he belongs. Curious to get your thoughts on that. Do you think he's emerged as a clear like number 3 player behind Shane and Sky?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, what he's done lately and what he's been doing, and like some of his interviews since that win at the Texas Open, some with y'all that I saw. Um, that win early was great, but I think maybe he missed out on some things having that early win. That maybe would have been more natural progressions for a player like Tyler, and um, his hard work certainly shown that he's number. I don't know what number he is at the hard work. He's way up there, but
He may be
yeah,
number one.
definitely. I think. Well, yeah, Shane works pretty darn hard too, uh, especially now. He's back to physical training and whatnot. But yeah, Tyler. I mean, he's fully committed. He's playing more events, and you can't. I always say you can't miss out on those matches. You can't replace them, and he's looking better and better. And maybe it's a good thing that he feels that that he is number 3 um, for a couple reasons. I don't think he wants to be number 3. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
and foremost reason. I think he wants to be number 1. So if he can settle himself and look himself in the eye, whichever way it is, I think Tyler's going to respond to it in a positive manner.
He always does a really good job of like you were alluding to, of just channeling things right and never letting it kind of get him down or too high or too low. And I put this whenever we interviewed him, when I hit him up to come on the show, it was like, hey, do you want to come on, when are you free? And then I said, and, get back to work, because I know he's just a workhorse. That's what he does. He's always hitting balls, and he stays very focused on his regiment. And a lot of people kind of look up to him and admire him for that. But this seems like a different player these days, Jeremy. And as he was getting quality win after quality win in the Texas Open, when did you start taking notice that hey, he may be able to do something here versus just make a decent splash?
Well, kind of with California getting to that final with Shane. Saw some of that, a lot of that actually, a few of those matches, and then um, actually not knowing because I'd hit Tyler up about a few things and just good shooting and some other things, and thought he was going to Turning Stone to be fair, and then realized he was going to the Texas Open. I was very excited to see that. Um, Nothing wrong with Turning Stone, but I always feel like it's a good quality event, and I knew Shane and some other players were going, so um, I was very happy to see that. And then once he beat Roberto, I think it was because he had a 9-8 win. It was a good player, but it was someone that if Tyler's, you know,
Raid, I think. I think it was Raid.
yeah, 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 and Rai can certainly put some racks together. But Tyler, the one thing about him is when he's in form and feeling good, the break ain't going to slow him down. It ain't going to be like, oh, I was playing great, but the break didn't work out for me. That's most likely not going to happen very often. So I kind of feel like without seeing that match, maybe he had some struggles, but once he got past Roberto, I felt like he could win the tournament. And of course, he had to play Skylar next, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so. Right after. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and he always, not anything against Skylar, of course, um, but he seems to have a good record against Skylar. I think.
Does he?
I mean, fairly, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I mean, not like maybe overall winning. Of course, he was behind him for a while, right? But I think a recent he just beat him in Germany, right? Final 32, was it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I have some good news that kind of bodes well for Moscone this year, which is, Shane. You mentioned how hard he works, but he just got outfished in Washington by Molina Mike, so that might keep him off the
It's
lake a
true.
little bit and
True.
have him working even harder.
As
So
long as he stays off the bridge, we're all right.
Yeah. Well, I messaged him, didn't hear back from him today, so I'm pretty sure he's fishing and then, you know, getting some good food and probably relaxing a little bit. He needs it.
So regarding Moscone, how do you feel like this year is kind of shaping up, Jeremy? You feel pretty good about what you're seeing out of the American players in terms of prospects you could select from going into this year?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think Skylar's had huge results. Of course, he's already on the team. Um, SVB is going to make it regardless, knock on wood, and some big, $1 billion fishing tournament doesn't come along or something like that. But, uh, yeah, and the other guys along the lines, I've reached out and communicated with many players, not just five. Um, Offering a lending hand if needed. I know some are a little touchy with how they do their things and what regimen they go through and what person they work with. Of course, want to respect that, but definitely going to look to spend more time with some players as well. Whether it be just talking with them, filling them out. Because to be honest, there's some out there that I don't know that well.
Well, I'll just let you know that I know I went 2 and out in the Don Weir Memorial, but I did get to the hill both times. So if you need somebody, if you get desperate, look me up.
We got to
Okay.
get over that hill, Joey. We're going over that hill. That's where we're going.
Well, let's
So
talk about getting over that hump, really, which is
okay,
like, this year, Melina and I were kind of having a chat about it. And I think Melina thinks this might be your last shot at it. Not to put words in your mouth, Melina, but um, like this might be your last shot at it. To go and actually get the win, and that came in the context of talking about: do you select a young up and comer as part of your squad this year, thinking more down the road? And so, with that context in mind, I was saying that I think you may, that you have to look at that option, right? Because it's not just about this year; it's about future years too. I know you care about that, but Melina's thinks that you have a little bit of pressure on you this year. What are your thoughts?
yeah. I mean, I definitely want pressure for, anyways. I mean, never really played many kind of like simple games, anyways. Right? They're always difficult, no matter what it is. That's kind of how I work with it. But um, yeah, it's fair to think any year is your last year. I mean, Moscone, of course, if it's something tragic, it could have been my last year, the first year, if it wasn't a pandemic with that kind of score line it was, right? Uh, but yeah, as far as the future, I think when you talk about Moscone, I think not only developing the younger player to where they can really be a Moscone player and maybe just more than one is whenever we really get like a more filtered kind of funding and to where we can train them, and spend a lot of time with them and them spend a lot of time with other great players. I mean, that's so important. Um, but I mean, the youngster on the list that we see right now would be like Lucas, right? Well,
Yep.
I've reached out to Lucas and said, hey, I'll be watching you and anything I can do for you, and certainly want to talk with you whenever I can. And that'll be the U.S. Open is the first time I can get around him, um, just because the schedule's real busy. But yeah, I want to spend time with him. And I always say it, you never know when a 18 to 21-year-old is just going to turn a serious corner. Um, the thing is, we got to enhance those chances of happening by doing other things. Like I said, if we had somewhere to train these players a little more often, it's a little different than it was a few years ago, where there were way less tournaments, and we spent so much time together traveling and trying to create moments, right? So, and events. So,
Is that like a thoughtful move from you, Jeremy? Just as far as putting them on notice that, hey, I'm keeping an eye on you, not in like a negative way, but just I want you to know you're on the radar, and results matter, wins matter, and how you're going to be performing matters over the next few months.
Yeah, if you sent me that message, I'd be on tilt, Jeremy. I'd never make a ball. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well,
do you think about
yeah,
it
I
that
was
way?
thinking about, yeah, I think about why great players are great all the time, trying to improve myself and other people. And, you know, I'm not saying they got to be in love with Jeremy Jones, right? But I mean, as far as making the
Yep.
Moscone Cup, I mean, you want those guys that are wired to where, yeah, that might be a little psyche, but that may be the benefit here in a few weeks or a month or 2 months or 3 months, depending. So, um,
Yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
think,
You want to see how
yeah,
they
I know.
handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think they'll all handle it well. If I really thought it was someone, which that person really wouldn't be in the rankings or top 10 in the rankings in the Americans, anyways. I don't think someone that's wired like that. But I mean, you look at the turning stone. You got B.J. Usry, who lost early, fought back. He's a bulldog. He always wanted to be maybe not a Moscone player when he first started, but the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like that's how it all goes. So you look at a Jeremy Sose who hasn't been able to play as many big events, but what if he had been able to play a ton of events, right? What kind of player he could be. So, um, yeah, I think to answer your question, I definitely want them to know I'm looking at them, and I think they want to know that. So I think it's nothing but positive overall.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but like how difficult I guess would it be if some of these guys who are more known or thought of as regional players, if they were to, win an event like let's say a Turning Stone, get 10,000, put that money on rankings, and then now you're kind of left with an interesting decision, or maybe a decision that's not even going to be in your hands if they were to make it off of points alone, but just in the sense of like they really haven't necessarily, maybe proven themselves on other stages, but then they go on a tear and snap one off. Like, is that a concern at all for you, or do you welcome players to kind of, take their own spotlight and their own spot in the stage?
Well, I mean, the one thing I don't have to concern myself with is if they make it top three, I have no
That's it.
concern.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. So that part of it is just how our system is set up. I think the system will evolve, just like the tournaments and the schedule and everything else along the lines, to where funds are appropriate, points are appropriated. I think how all of us think are the best way, whatever that may be one day. Um, but it's a little concern just because there are some. I mean, I could take a handful of players that don't even play hard, 30 to 40 years old, that really, if they hit balls for 2, 3 weeks and got a decent draw at Turning Stone, playing 9 ball, and got a little momentum going, they could be in the finals of that tournament, I think,
Okay.
you know.
I'll bite. I'll bite.
Donnie
Come on.
Mills,
Let's
somebody
let's
like
hear
that.
some.
Yeah, Donnie
Yeah,
Mills for sure. I mean, I think there's some of them that were kind of in there anyways. Where was Sosa at? Fourth? How
yeah,
many big tournaments did he play? He
yeah.
didn't play very many
Yeah.
big tournaments.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, even like Oscar Dominguez, for instance. I mean, I guess Oscar plays a little more often, but I mean, I'd have to think a little more. But I guarantee you, there are definitely some that I could think of. Chip Compton can definitely get rolling, playing nine ball. Of course, he hadn't been in that scene for a minute. Justin Hall, a couple weeks of him practicing, and and seeing some sunlight or whatever you want to call it. Uh,
So since you
you
brought
know,
up a since you
That's
brought
the
up a
so
best line
Justin,
we've had over the last couple of months. Seeing some sunlight.
well,
Can
since you
can I
he's a
quote you?
he's a good friend of mine, so I can bust his chops
I
even
know.
even
I'm
in
just
the
kidding.
public eye, I guess. So
That's funny. I
since you
love
brought
that.
up a Justin, Jeremy,
Justin
whenever
Bergman, right?
whenever we start talking about Moscone, there's so many people in the country that really want to see Bergman get back on that team, and it's got to be somewhat disappointing to you that he's not out there playing and really trying to get back on the team. What are your thoughts on that in terms of this new break format? A lot of people are saying he might be fixing to be one of the best players out there with this break format, getting so much play after the break, and a lot of defense, and cue ball so important. Thoughts on Justin?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first off, I love the guy. I've always loved him. Really, first met him, I played him in the Texas Open, ironically, when he was 18. I think it was. It was still back at Eric's, so a long time ago. Maybe he was 17. Um, and then, I love playing the guy. I've gambled with him a few times. In one pocket, and I bet on him. I don't know how many times. I love the way he does things, and he doesn't dog it usually. We all dog it every now and again, but usually he's real solid. And as far as the break rules and everything, I think it's set up for him for sure. And he's kind of like one of those guys, like Shane. Of course, the whole world's kind of intimidated by Shane, but without Skyler having 5 U.S. Opens, or a guy like Justin having, 5 U.S. Opens, when someone draws them, and it doesn't matter who they are, it grabs their attention, just a little differently um, than other people with similar kind of careers on the pro scene.
Have you talked to him lately, Justin?
I talk to him every year. We messaged earlier in the year a little bit, just a little bit friendly, but messaged him every year about the pool. And, he's like, I want to do it, and I know he's busy doing. He likes he's funny. He likes to really dive deep into something. Like he buys and sells a lot of stuff. He used to, there for a while. He's doing sewing machines, like antiques, and he's doing all kinds of. Yeah, he did baseball cards for a little while, but he's a lot sharper than people give him credit. Of course, he shows it on the pool table.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot of talent and an asset. But I've been thinking about these four players at least, or these three to five players, but mainly the four that I expect to make it on this year. And one thing that I've always respected about you is that you've always shot me straight. Whether it comes to analysis of a player or self analysis as a coach, and kind of looking from the outside in. But how take off the USA captain hat. How strong do you think the American team is going to be this year come December, just from what you've seen over the first 9 months, without giving away the whole thing, because we don't want to piss off Emily more than we already do.
Well, just to put it simply, and I was super proud of the guys last year. The year before, I was super proud of them as well. The year I had to kind of step in, and they had to deal with that as well. And then the pandemic was kind of funny. Of course, I didn't really excuse it as much as I do recently, of late. But I feel whatever five we have, we're going to play better than we did last year.
I
That's
think
for
so
damn
too.
sure.
I have that
So,
feeling too. It just seems
yeah,
like
I
this
mean,
year's setting up with the volume of tournaments, the players that are out there playing. I just have a feeling whatever team gets assembled, they're going to play well.
yeah. And, it's nine ball. And of course, we can't make any excuses as professionals. So, I mean, we can't go away saying the break cost us or anything else. So I mean, we got to be prepared as best as possible, and that's on me.
Yeah.
What were the tables like last year? Were they 4-inch pockets like the
Yeah,
tour?
they were tiny. There were 4-inch pockets and 4.5-inch sides. I don't know if you
So,
remember the shot
Oh
that Earl
yeah,
didn't shoot in the side pocket. He ended up
Earl
shooting it
avoided
the,
the
down the
side.
middle.
the
Yeah.
infamous Earl
Yeah,
one, of course. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Which, I mean, not to pick on Earl, there were several shots that were passed or tried to play a bank cross side where I played on a lot of, like, maybe not ones you would say cut that small, even though they kind of played even worse because they were gaffy. And we still kind of played the shot. I think now that a year of the guys being on the tighter pockets, both teams, I think you're going to see them settle in a little more now in some Moscone Cups. So it ain't going to be too much settled in, but I think they're going to be a little better.
It seems like there's a lot of guys who are playing tough pool. A lot of guys on the American side that are playing solid at the right time. And that's the reason why I'm of that opinion. I've never, been a homer or have sugarcoated if I thought, we were just going to be outgunned. Bless you, Joe.
Excuse me. Whew.
But it seems like the for whatever reason, whether it's the tour or just now after a few more years of experience, however you want to chalk it up, I got a feeling that win or lose, that it's going to be a lot more competitive than it was, which is crazy because it could have tied it up. I think it was day
Oh yeah,
3. I think.
last year we were right in it. Last year.
Oh,
Yeah,
day 4.
yeah, yeah,
Skyler had missed that unfortunate ball, and not to look at one shot, but in that instance, we were going to make it 8-8,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and with Shane coming back with Shaw next, Shaw won that match, and I love EUI, but he was a little fortunate in that one. If you remember, if you
let
remember, so,
let him know. Let him know, Jeremy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I will. So
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 how important is Atlantic City going to be for the Americans? How much do you want to let whoever you're talking to know that, hey, it's time to shine. This is crunch time. This is time to make a move here.
yeah, it's real important, and it's for some of them, it's the first real big tournament in a while. So if there's any
Like a Wolford type player. You mean
no, 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 no. I mean, like Werner, for instance. I mean, he
Lucas?
hasn't
Yeah,
traveled across. He hasn't
yeah,
traveled, uh, across the pond, right? BJ hasn't traveled across the pond. So all those tournaments that they've been watching is coming to them. And it's the U.S. Open, of course, which in my mind is the biggest. But I just try to lend an easy hand. A couple friendly words. The funny thing for me always is sweating them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be right on top of the table unless I know them, and like that's comfortable that way. Um, so that one's a little funny, and if anyone hears this, and of course I'll let them know. Certainly, let me know if it bothers you. But again, that's kind of like sending them a message saying I'm watching, right? So
yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. So I kind of feel like those guys aren't going to have a problem with that.
Well, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with you, just kind of putting them on notice. And I mean, listen, let's keep it real. If they're going to rattle with that, they're going to rattle, with a crowd full
3,000
of
fans.
Europeans there, really trying to need them a little bit. So it's super important, to kind of have your composure under any circumstance. I feel. I mean, it's easier said than done, but
Well,
it's important.
the good thing is, it's not their Moscone Cup, but as far as nerves going, it's probably some of the biggest for them all year. Those players that haven't made the ones overseas. Real good that Shane Wolford played the Texas Open, played solid. I think he wants to improve off of it from the communication we've had. He's playing these next 2 events before the U.S. Open because I kind of felt like maybe he could have a little nerves going to the U.S. Open, but I think he'll be just fine. But yeah, those other guys like Hunter's been going out to all the tournaments, so he's a little different. But as far as like BJ, Jeremy Sose, um, uh, Lucas, those three there could get a little bit more nerves, but that's a good thing. If they're prepared, I think they'll play well.
Jeremy, how do you feel that Billy Thorpe's playing? Do you think he's getting his form back from maybe a few years ago? And I'm kind of pulling for him because I don't want to see him in the overalls again. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
right. Well, I don't know if anyone in London wants to see him in the overalls again, but you know, Billy, you could tell Billy was playing a lot at the beginning of the year. He had some nice results, had a tournament win. Um, and was really grinding it maybe too long. I think he went like 12 weeks in a row on the road, something like that, 10
That's
weeks,
tough.
something a long time. Um, and then prior to Germany, he was honest with me. He didn't get to put in a lot of time. His cues were lost for a little while. Got him back. Um, but I can tell since then, because I haven't been able to be with him, but I told him some things to work on, and obviously he did because he looked a lot better at the Texas Open. And the good thing about it is, it almost looks like an easier, larger upside for Billy now because the hard when I was raised, just someone to know. I tell them, no, I mean,
Hey, Jeremy,
You're
the
breaking up.
audio's cutting out. Let's see if maybe I'll send you to the back, and let's see if we
okay,
can get you to refresh, and then we'll bring you back in.
okay, sounds
A lot of solid insight from Jeremy Jones as always, man.
Yeah, I really wanted to hear. I was hanging on every word, and he started like fading out, and I'm like, "Oh man, what
Yeah,
was he saying there?" Because he's talking about Billy and how earlier this year he did well, and he went on the road maybe too long, and then he came back, and yeah. So hopefully Jeremy can pick up what he was saying there.
Jeremy, can you hear us?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
All right,
Jeremy,
cool.
I was just saying you were about to really say something interesting, I think, and then you kind of cut out talking about Billy and how he looked at the Texas Open, and I
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
said that his upside, like he has, it might be easier for him to get back now than before or
yeah.
something.
Well, everyone always knows Billy was real skilled. You can't bank the ball without a good stroke. You got to be kind of unique in the head and kind of have like an instinct when it comes to banking the balls. But one of his biggest ones, especially when nerves are going, was being able to and really kind of use his brain a little bit, um, like learn to rely on a few things very so much. So I could them after the European Open. He said he was going to practice a lot. I said, "Well, listen, I can tell when you're going to the tournament. You haven't been practicing your routine at all. It's totally foreign. So now you're every shot." And I said, "Go home without me, us being together, just practicing. Make sure it's like a tournament." And I said the same thing to Skylar a lot of times. Go to the tournament as great as you are, just kind of turn on tournament mode. I mean, it's just a hard thing to do. And Billy had a big problem with that, and now looked awesome. Even in the one pocket, you play one pocket, Mike, right? When you
Yeah,
play one pocket,
allegedly.
even
Play.
great.
Yeah,
Well, but even the great players, if you won't use your routine as much, because you're kind of around the stack,
yeah,
you're kind of nicking balls and everything.
yeah,
And Billy did it every shot, like every shot, whether he's just kicking the shot, he got into a stance, you know what I'm saying? And everything kind of got
yeah.
better and better and better. And he did the same thing in the 9 ball. And I think if he sticks to it, it's gonna pay off big time for him.
That's good to hear. I like hearing that. Back to the U.S.
Yeah. So
Open, Jeremy. Each year I kind of look at the field in the US Open and I think back to like past years and there were tough fields in it, but it just seems to become a harder and harder tournament every year. The names that travel over for the event. Where do you rank the US Open among all other uh, 9 ball tournaments?
I think it's the pinnacle, really. I mean, it's of course, like golfers consider the championship, the British Open. They get a be called British Open. No, it's the Open Championship. Golf, right? 9 ball is American. Um, pocket billiards, American pocket billiards. So, and it's always seemed to have a class winner and class field. And what it does is it just brings the very best from all parts of the world. Where we go to Germany and we're so Germans, we don't know their names, but that's not going to bring all the best players. Where the US Open for brings 100 plus
You there, Joey? Can you hear me?
150.
Yeah, I can hear you. We're
Yeah.
still getting a little bit of audio issues with Jeremy. I don't know if there's anything you can do, Mike.
No. Let's try refreshing one more time. See if we can just clear it up
Okay.
here for the home stretch here. Um, Yeah, no, lots of good questions and things that we wanted to touch base with Jeremy on. Um, Kind of gets out of rhythm with the audio though a little bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, give us 1 second here, guys. Let's see. All right, here we go. Can you hear us, Jeremy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, it's coming
That
in
sounds better.
a little better. We were talking about earlier when it comes to like finishes and being able to close, and there was a lot of questions early on when Tyler would be in big matches, and that was a question I wanted to get to earlier. But how impressed were you to see him kind of fade the Shane Storm in that semi or hot seat match? Going up 6 or 7-0, Shane comes back and takes the lead. Tyler then wins one game and then breaks and run for the hill. How impressed were you to kind of see him hold his composure and to be so poised when the pressure was really at about as high as it could get in a tournament? I mean, you're playing SVB on the TV table on the last night of the tournament.
Wow, super impressive. But I mean, it shows his hard work and everything kind of connecting together. Hard to say that Tyler or anyone's going to go out there and keep playing like that every match. But I mean, that's what you're trying to get to. And,
Yeah,
him experiencing it. And, a lot of times when Tyler would lose some of those bigger matches, he played well. But he had a little help along the way by his opponent. At the World Games there, I think it was against Josh Filler. He played well and he played solid, but I mean, I don't think he played anything like he did this last week at the Texas Open. So I think he's just experiencing a little bit uh, more reward and everything of what he's working on, and a couple things he probably improved at, mentally and physically. And I think it's just he responded to Shane. The adrenaline was going. Shane's adrenaline was going. I don't really think we were going to see a mistake from either guy.
does it make you more open to, let's say, bringing on a younger player with less experience, knowing that you're gonna, not talking about Shane and Sky, but having a guy who has experience and now is kind of taking on what seems to be a little bit more of like a leader type role? Like Tyler's kind of standing on his own 2 feet here, kind of being his own man in a lot of aspects. Does that make you more open to maybe bringing on some youth and some younger blood?
You mean for the Moscone?
Yeah, yeah,
Or you? Yeah. Um, well, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't hurt the prospect of bringing on younger blood. I mean, I don't feel any of the players would steer any of them in any direction, a bad direction. Um, but yeah, someone that another player can trust, or it wouldn't be just Shane, which these are pros. It's not like that, anyways, right? But I think
yeah.
to understand your question right,
Like, I guess in the sense of it'd be different if let's say, because SVB at times, even though he's the number one, he's been kind of like a mixed leader, right? Sky came on as the vice captain, and he does a pretty good job, really reliable and dependable, and can kind of be that rah kind of guy. But to have, and I know Tyler's not on the team, so I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here, but I guess if he were to make the team, just given his maturity and the leadership, that he's been presenting himself over the last, let's say year and a half, is that something that makes you more comfortable to, let's say, bring on, or be more open minded to younger players,
Kind of
knowing
like
that?
he's not the young guy anymore, and
yeah, I mean,
he's another
now,
veteran.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one thing. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like why I have a different conversation with Tyler now, during this process than I would with BJ. And hopefully both those guys would recognize why. Tyler's been on how many Moscone Cups now? For four or five? Four?
Something
Um,
like that.
yeah, 18, 19, 21, 22. So yeah, and certainly I would have a discussion with him as a hopeful, a little different than I would BJ, because he's been there, and
Yeah,
what things to expect. But yeah, I consider him a veteran, and he played real well last year. Had a couple things get away on day four. Um, it happens. But yeah, I consider him a veteran. But as far as like you bringing this up, Mike, makes me think, okay, yeah, that's a good thing to have, but I wouldn't say it would be that much of my thought process. It'd be more my thought process would be like, man, I got Tyler, I got Skyler, I got Shane, I got, if you think about those guys individually, like if I was going to think about Tyler, I'd say he's a
Yeah.
great doubles partner. You know what I mean? So that would lend me a little more towards opening up and maybe making a real tough decision because I have two or three great doubles partners. Skyler's a great doubles partner.
Yeah.
Shane, if you can handle, being with SVB, he's a great doubles partner.
Let me stop you there, Jeremy. So, especially in the amateur game in the U.S., Scotch doubles tournaments have become really popular, and I think Moscone probably contributed to that. What do you mean when you say they're great doubles players? What type of qualities would you say a great doubles player has?
Uh, well, they can handle a lot. They're knowledgeable. Um, they, know when to talk for some reason and when not to. It's not a constant, and it's almost like you can't get a beat on them if you're the other side because you never know, what they're going to do, kind of on and off the table. Um, can handle a little recovery here and there. I always felt like I was a good doubles partner. That's why a couple years ago, I felt bad for Earl, of course, but when I was thinking about winning, I kind of felt like there were some combinations I could toy with because I felt like I was going to play solid doubles. Um, and it's just that type of player, and
Even whenever you were
that's
out
what
there,
I'm sorry.
when you were out there,
Yeah, I thought it gave us another good doubles partner. You know what I mean? Like
you don't
I
think
didn't
it
think
made
we
anybody nervous saying I'm playing with the captain? I better not f this up.
No, 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 no. Maybe certain captains, I guess,
uh,
but I didn't think we lost a lot, with Earl having to not play and me coming in when it comes to the double side of things, especially with me not playing that much pool at that time. I just, you know, direct my partner pretty decent, when to direct him, can handle a little shot, play safe pretty good, push out good. You know what I mean? Like just
yeah,
good doubles partner. So
Well, Shane's Shane, obviously, but would you say that he's a good doubles partner? Because I know over the years he's caught some criticism for maybe some of the doubles matches, and it just didn't always seem like. Maybe it was partially because, in the same way that Mike said, playing with the captain, if you're playing with, Captain America, there's a lot of pressure. And so do you think that hurts him in the doubles?
I think for a while, I think Shane's better as a doubles partner now, mentally.
I'd agree.
And he was, yeah, and I think he's better mentally away from the table at the tournaments with the players. I think he offers positive things like, he watched the end of me and Billy's match, and from when it was like 6-6 or something like that. And after I got a little bit of a cold roll, falling kind of straight on this ball to make it hill, and of course I chunked it, but he told me some real positive things afterwards, and not saying I was expecting negative, but Shane's, when he knows you, he'll tell you pretty straightforward on something.
Yeah,
Oh, you dogged it, or well, you know what I mean, or or you should have done this, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying, or you should have done
yeah.
that, which is cool. That's how I kind of grew up with people like that. So, um, but he was real positive, and he's real positive with all the guys. It seems like every tournament I go to, he's at breakfast with more of the players, and through the years, and he's really wanting to, share his pool life with the players.
He plays better when he's got more trust. I feel like, and a lot of those guys now he can trust. You on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I think it comes with respect,
yeah, of
so
course.
he respects them a lot more. He knows they work hard. He knows they're smart. He just respects them in all kinds of ways.
Well, yeah, I mean, Sky beat him a couple times here recently. Tyler just got the better of him a little bit. Should have gotten the better of him twice if it wasn't for a drive break out there in Sacramento. But I agree with you. It's a matter of like he's still competitive, but he respects the fight and he enjoys the battle. very much so.
Yeah, and it's just like what's said about him. I mean, people have different opinions, but my opinion is the rest of the world has caught up a heck of a lot more than he's dropped off when it comes to Shane, and he's kind of opened the door, socially with the pool world a lot more the last few years, and I think it's actually going to do nothing but help his pool game.
I think Shane's a genius, and he's letting these guys beat him to boost their confidence, so they're ready to go when it's
He's
time for
playing the long
Moscone.
game, huh? Is that what it is?
But
Same way he did with you fishing, Mike. He didn't want to make
No,
you
he
feel
was he was drawing dead and fishing. He just had no idea he was in a trap. That's all that was.
bad.
You there, Jeremy?
Yes, audio.
Can you hear us? No, it seemed like it cut out again. Ironically enough, see if we can get you to refresh, and then we'll bring you back in. Yeah, it just kind of cut out a little bit. Sorry, guys, for the audio issues. We thought it was just it's been a little convenient at times with other guests. I didn't think we'd have some issues with Jeremy, but we'll get it sorted out. I want to talk some one pocket with Jeremy. I want to get his thoughts on Tony and get his thoughts on Federer and Shane, because he's got a pretty great mind when it comes to analyzing that as well. Jeremy, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's talk some one pocket, Jeremy, because you were in the Texas Open one pocket, a big buy-in event. Tony ends up snapping it off, beating Shane in just a thriller of a Ironman match. I think it was like over 8 hours was that final. But let's talk about Tony and where he falls in the landscape of one pocket players, and then let's talk about Shane and Federer afterwards.
Yeah, it was a great
You there?
tournament. Fine.
Oh, I
Excuse
think
me.
I think we may be having some more audio issues here, Jeremy. Let's try refreshing one more time, and then we'll bring you back in. Well, Joe,
Yeah, I
you,
don't
you
know. We might have to call this one. It's been a great show so far, but
yeah.
if we can't get this thing working, but yeah, I mean, Tony, it's kind of interesting because Tony's now winning one pocket tournaments, and it seemed like for a long time, it seemed like his interest was really just in the 2-man tournaments, But now, it's almost like maybe at this stage he realizes he wants to leave a legacy, and he's really bearing down and focusing on these tournaments and winning these things. So I was pretty happy for him to snap off that one pocket. Tony's always been a friend of the show, great guy, great to talk to. It's kind of cool to watch him do that out there.
Well, Tony just will call it like he sees it, and it was great seeing him, like at the Derby, for example, win that one off, and what that meant to his career. Let's see if we can bring back in Jeremy. Jeremy Jones, can you hear us? Yo, yo. Yeah,
Hmm.
it seems to be. It
What's
seems to
going
be a little. Yeah, I'm not sure. It just seems to be a little a little laggy, a little choppy.
Yeah.
on?
All right, let's send you back to the back here. Maybe we can just try to reschedule, Joe, and then we can just follow up on
Yeah,
the
let's
the one part.
we've gone about 48 minutes here with Jeremy, and maybe we can have him come on and do like half hour soon. Because it doesn't look like the audio is going to cooperate. But I felt like during this episode he really talked a lot about Moscone and kind of that's the thing I love about having Jeremy on. You kind of get inside his head a little bit and see the things that he's thinking when it comes time to select a team. And we're getting close to that point, right? He's going to have to pick 2 wild cards coming up. Looks like one of them may be a pretty easy selection, and it looks like the other might truly be a wild card, right?
Well, that's what I was going to ask him. I was going to ask him if
Point blank,
if his team was already picked. Let me see, because he's still
he's not
hanging
going
out
to say
back
that.
here. Let me see. Jeremy, can you hear us? I know you're still hanging around
Can
over
you
there.
can you hear me now? I'm listening to y'all.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
okay. Well, then I guess you heard my question. Then, how much of that team is already at this point made up here?
Can you hear me now, Mike?
Of course.
Oh,
That's the
We
joke.
can hear you. Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
joke.
He's
That's a
faking.
joke. Okay.
Jeremy's like,
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, no, I'm open. I mean, some players are making statements to be on the team, of course, and we got a lot going on in the fall. Um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a nucleus of players in mind, of course, and like what Tyler, how he played. Of course, we'll see the U.S. Open. He's playing many events. Um, but like I said, I've contacted a good 9 or 10 players, and so I didn't contact them for no reason. I want them to be, way down deep in all those events and see what happens.
How do you balance when you're doing work with Matchroom and then you're having to kind of look at form and look at big matches or how they're competing against let's say a big name out at the U.S. Open.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I work every other match. I got to do some stuff in Vision, and so I'll float in. Like I said, a lot of times I try to not be seen as much. Don't want to feel like I'm sharking somebody, even though it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But for most guys at the track, they see me at some time or another. I usually get a pretty good view. I watch a lot of players. So, and they're all pretty honest with me as well. I talk to a lot of the American players, no matter which fleet of player that goes to one of these events on, and I try to get a little information from all, whether they're just fellow American, most of them are.
Yeah. Do you feel like that aspect of, or how do you turn that off when it comes time to making decisions, like what keeping that friendship, checking that friendship at the door, and breaking some hearts when you have to.
Well, I've worked it a couple times, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. It happened to me, as a player a few times where it came down some picks, and I felt like just because we had performed before and person knowing me, you could think, I mean, I get someone else after I played with them, and and whatnot, and it's a hard decision, and you're going to have to go with what you feel like is going to win for me. And I'm a big one to see about what's going on lately more than what you've done. So maybe that's why I was easy to pass on a couple of those years that I didn't make it as a player, because they were thinking the same thing. I'd much rather have a player that's trending, and make a tough decision that way rather than someone that hasn't done much in a while. So,
do Shane and Sky get any input into your picks?
uh, I mean, they don't really play like. I mean, Skyler. I mean, he was assistant last year, and we'll see how that plays out as far as something formal this year. But he's always one that I talk to a lot because on things. And usually, he's on guys. At times, if you don't grab Shane's attention, you can kind of feel like he's a yes man. He really gives me honest thought, and both on when
Yeah, I think we're still having some technical difficulties, buddy. So we'll circle back ahead of the U.S. Open, Jeremy. If that's all right with you. And because there was a couple of other things that we wanted to bring up with you, but this audio issue, and that we've already gone 55 minutes already. So we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for, as always. We're bringing the heat here in a little bit, but we'll hold off until we see you pretty soon, buddy.
See you, Jeremy. Mike, I didn't get to ask him that one question.
Which one?
The question about his matchroom contract when he does his commentating, if they have him say those silly British words like break off, you know?
Oh, the thing you started off the entire, well, you had you had no problem throwing me under the bus. I'm surprised you didn't figure out a spot to say it then, buddy.
I'm like, the first time I heard Jeremy Jones say break off, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? We're not in
Well, when
Texas
in Rome,
anymore.
you know, when you're working around all these Europeans, it's only natural. Plus, you're
Yeah.
on Sky Sports,
The day
So
Jeremy says that he screwed the ball back, that's it. Okay. Carl Boys will be my favorite commentator after that. Just kidding.
well, Carl may already be your favorite commentator. No, I'm kidding. No,
That's a great team. They're a great team when they're doing a match together. I love every moment of it because they give you so much. Carl gives you so much color. Jeremy gives you so much information, and it's just a pleasure to watch. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and apologize for that audio stuff. We've done Jeremy on this show 10 times and never had that, so it's really unusual for us to have that issue. But I thought we did cover a lot of ground and spoke a lot about Tyler, a lot about Moscone, a lot about the upcoming U.S. Open. Some pretty cool stuff. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. Melina, you got any last words?
no. Just keep your notifications on. I'm sure we're gonna have more guests coming up throughout the week. I don't even know what day it is gonna be tomorrow, but maybe if not, I reached out to Darren Appleton, see if we can get Darren on. He's coming over to the U.S. And so I'm reaching out to a few other guys as well. I got to follow up with Federer also. So just keep your notifications on. We'll try to have more stuff coming up pretty soon. And we appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you guys later.